Imagine an explosion so enormous that it damages Earth's atmosphere from across the entire universe. So gargantuan, it comes second to the literal Big Bang, being clearly visible to the naked eye from 2 billion light-years away. Well, that's exactly the kind of eruption that we witnessed on October 9th, 2022, nicknamed the Boat, the brightest of all time. But what caused it? And what if it had been just a little closer? We're about to explore the biggest explosion in the entire history of time. The Boat was unlike anything we'd ever seen. It was the dramatic end to one of the most massive stars to ever exist. When this star collapsed, it was so heavy that instead of exploding outwards like a normal supernova, it imploded to launch two enormous and highly concentrated beams out of each end. This phenomena is called a gamma-ray burst, which are the most extreme explosions in the universe, and the Boat just so happened to be the most powerful one ever recorded. But the insanity doesn't stop there. By pure coincidence, we happen to be in the direct path of one of the gamma-ray beams, making this event even more impacting to us, quite literally. Despite being 2.4 billion light-years away, the Boat's powerful gamma-ray jets reached Earth, zapping our upper atmosphere. This massive cosmic blast carried so much force that it briefly disrupted radio signals, much like a typical solar flare can. Though the impact on us was minimal, the death of this star in a distant corner of the universe created such a severe shockwave, it still managed to rattle our planet. And fortunately, it happened so far away from us because it would have affected a lot more than just radio signals if it were any closer. If this gamma-ray burst were to be located within our galaxy and the jets were aimed at us, our entire planet likely would have been vaporized, with the whole atmosphere stripped and the surface incinerated by the extreme heat. Considering the influence it had on us from such an unfathomable distance, it's easy to imagine how destructive this event could have been if it were only several light-years away. But could an event like this happen again in our lifetimes? The answer is yes. Though it's very unlikely, as the kind of star required to replicate such an enormous explosion is so rare and conditional, and while the specifics are unknown, the one behind the Boat seems to be a freak of nature. However, there are still several gamma-ray burst candidates within our local universe, and even several in our own galaxy that may create devastating outbursts when they finally go supernova. The most likely star to explode as a gamma-ray burst is called Eta Carinae, which is a blue hypergiant star a mere 7,000 light-years away. That's quite a lot closer than 2 billion. Being over 200 times more massive than the Sun with a seriously unstable surface, this star is concerningly at risk of creating an enormous gamma-ray burst in our own backyard. It would have appeared as a flash of light brighter than anything else in the sky. It would have been visible in the daytime and blindingly illuminating the night, that is, if you somehow managed to survive the impact. However, this kind of devastation would require the jets of Eta Carinae's gamma-ray burst to be aimed directly at us, just like the Boats were from several billion light-years away, which was already an extreme coincidence. Fortunately, the chances of that are very slim, as the beams from a gamma-ray burst are focused like a bullet, so it would need to be angled perfectly to hit our planet. But if this were to be the case, is there anything we can do to stop a gamma-ray jet from impacting us? The answer is a resounding no. There is absolutely nothing we can do to protect ourselves from a nearby gamma-ray explosion, besides hoping it never happens in the first place. Imagine all of the energy that the Sun will ever produce in its lifetime, concentrating it all in the form of a narrow beam. Well, that's the force of an average gamma-ray jet. Doesn't sound very stoppable, does it? It would be like trying to shield yourself from a speeding freight train with your bare hands. And in fact, we have evidence that one of Earth's historic mass extinction events were tied to a nearby gamma-ray blast, specifically the Ordovician-Silurian extinction that happened about 450 million years ago. Fossils from this era show remnants of severe radiation damage, as well as unusual elemental variants that can be linked to serious atmospheric damage. Estimates suggest that the explosion behind this event was 6,000 light-years away, yet it still managed to wipe out 85% of marine species that existed at the time. And this event came from a typical gamma-ray burst, not even close to one of the biggest. Now picture history repeating itself, but 10 times more intense. We're incredibly lucky the Boat happened 2 billion light-years away. If it was closer, our planet would have been obliterated in a flash. That's the story of the universe's most powerful blast ever. And let's hope that record stays unbroken for ages. Thanks for watching, and check out our other videos for even more mind-blowing space facts.